Hey folks, I'm excited to share our episode with Sean Solomon. But first, I got a call from my very self-effacing but extremely talented friend, Rob Ellis, whom you might know as the drummer for everyone from PJ Harvey to Marianne Faithfull, and who was on the show a couple years back. Rob has a new solo album out today, and I loved it so much that I asked him to call me and tell me about it.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. What are you up to today?
Oh, what am I up to? I've been for a walk, and I've been doing a little bit of work. I am actually doing a little bit of writing here, managing to. But yeah. Funny old business at the moment, isn't it?
I wanted to call you real quickly to talk about The Nostalgia Machine, which is a new album that you have coming out on Friday.
Oh, yes, right. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes, it's something I worked on last year, and it's like an instrumental record, or another instrumental record. I've done a couple before, but not for the last one I did 16 years ago. So it's quite a long gap. And so yeah, I've just done this new one, which is a bit different to the ones I've done before. It's a little bit more, a little less avant and a bit more guard. But I'm quite pleased with it.
It's beautiful. I've been listening to it today.
Oh, thank you. No, that's great. It was done for a production library, but they've released it, actually given it a little online. There's not a hard copy available as yet, but maybe there will be sometime. But at the moment, it's just an online Spotify, iTunes thing. And I'm working on a follow-up to it now, but I did that last year. And it was kind of like, it's just this library company asked me to just do a production music record. And so I kind of whipped up a few things I found on my hard drive from, years ago and just poshed them up a bit. And that's it. That's the result. But it was...
You're underselling it, Rob. It's a great record.
Oh,
it doesn't
really?
sound like it was just sitting around on a hard drive, but it's beautiful.
I did kind of go about it as try. I used it as an excuse, basically, just to make a record that I wanted to make.
That totally comes across. It's just a great record. Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're pandering to production library or anything like that.
Oh, good. Yes, probably better not tell the company that I worked that that's the case. But I'm pleased that it's turned out that way. And thank you for your help and advice, actually. But I remember calling you up when I was working on it, and I'd never done it before. So I thought I should call you because I know you've had a lot of experience in that world. And but it really helped me actually to think, okay, I'll just stick my neck out a little bit and just go for it on a few things. And I was I was definitely worried that they may say, what are you doing? This has got nothing to do with what we're after, really. But they were fine, absolutely fine. No problems. And they're happy with it in the end. So I got away with it.
Well, it's an authentic sounding album wherein it sounds like it's coming from the heart, and it sounds like an album that you're uniquely qualified to have made. So everybody should check out The Nostalgia Machine by Rob Ellis. Now available on Spotify and Apple Music.
Great. Thank you, Joe. That's fantastic.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set. During the age of social distancing, we're recording remotely and releasing new episodes every day.
If we fall in love, I will
Today's guest is Sean Solomon, guitarist and vocalist for the band Moaning. Moaning released their second album, Uneasy Laughter, a few weeks ago on Sub Pop. Sean spoke to me from his home in Los Angeles.
Hey.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
It's Joe here.
Hey, how's it going, Joe?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
What have you been up to today?
I woke up kind of late and I've actually just been playing guitar. Lately, I've been just doing it for pleasure, which is kind of nice. I've been making a point to just enjoy playing guitar, and yeah, I don't know, for the first time in a long time I've been like trying to learn different songs, and it sort of is like, it's been nice. It's sort of like a meditation or something where I just play the same thing again and again and fixate on it a little bit.
What have you been playing today?
I've been like learning different like finger picking songs. I never play. I always play with a pick. I never do finger picking, but I feel like I thought I would like learn a bunch of different songs. So I learned Elliott Smith's Angelus. And then,
that's a good one.
Yeah, it's really fun and it's smart. The arrangement is really creative and interesting. And then I was learning Julia by the Beatles. I was just sort of going landslide. You know what I mean? Like just whatever.
The standards.
Sort of, yeah, just to see like what sort of the different... Yeah, because I've never done it. I wanted to see like what other songs are like. And I've always been, you know, like to rock and roll. And now that the world sort of is standing still for a second, I'm like going back to playing folk music on my acoustic guitar.
Do you remember the first time you picked up a guitar?
I remember sort of. I had like, my parents got me an acoustic guitar and they tried to get me to learn how to play, and I gave up multiple times. Like it just wasn't for me at first. And I was really little. I was probably like 8 years old or something. And then the guitar was just sitting in my room. So eventually when I was 13 and actually started listening to music I thought was cool, I picked it up again. And I remember my friend Rachel showed me how to play Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, just the chords. And then I had a guitar teacher. He taught me probably like 3 or 4 lessons. His name was Ritchie. He played drums in Saccharine Trust, the SST band.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me how to play Smells Like Teen Spirit and one Ramones song. And then I asked him to teach me another Ramones song, and he said, it's the same chords, you figure it out. And then the lessons were done. He was really cool. He passed away probably when I was like 15, and I actually, that was also one of my first shows. Was his friends put together like a little benefit concert for him at the Echoplex, and I played like one of the first songs I ever wrote there. And it was really bizarre because it was like I didn't really know who I was performing with, and it was like Mike Watt played and Nels Klein, and yeah, I don't know. I always think about Ritchie still. He's like he's a really cool guy, and he's who I think about when I think about learning how to play guitar. Definitely a punk rock approach. Sort of just told me to figure it out.
Did you grow up in the LA area?
Yeah, I grew up in Encino and Woodland Hills. Yeah, I'm a Valley guy. Uh, yeah, I don't think everyone always moves to LA, and everyone's always like surprised that I grew up here. But I don't think that I would choose to be here. I just like, wound up here, and all my friends are here, my band's here.
What did your parents do when you were growing up?
Well, my dad actually owned a coffee shop when I was younger, called Common Grounds in Northridge, and he plays the trumpet, and he would have like jazz musicians play at the coffee shop, and then I think Starbucks or something put him out of business, and then my mom managed actors for a while, and she lost some of her hearing because of Meniere's disease, so she still does it a little bit. And then my uncle, actually, he plays saxophone. He's on my dad's side. They're like more musical, and he's how I knew Ritchie. So he played saxophone on some SST records and recorded Zoog's Drift, who was on SST, and he sort of I think he bought me my first electric guitar and like kind of pushed me in like the direction of like writing and recording music and stuff. He's actually on a podcast that he sent. I told him I was going to be on a podcast, and he sent me a podcast he's on.
Your uncle.
Yeah, so some Canadian podcast where they go through each SST record, and he played on and recorded some of the Zoog's Drift stuff, which is like probably lesser known.
Yeah,
SST.
That's a deeper cut, and so is Saccharine Trust in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was growing up, I lived in Wisconsin, and so I would order records from SST. Every LP came with a mail order catalog, and at that time it was $6 for an LP. So I would save up for a month and then place a giant order and get records by Husker Du and Black Flag and Dinosaur Jr. and Minutemen, people like that. But it always seemed so exotic to me, the Lawndale address. And sometimes I would call and just like talk to the people that worked there to try to find out more information about the history of punk rock.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I don't know. I feel like I sort of learned more about it later in life, where it was my uncle, who, he had a day job, and it was always sort of like, it didn't really click for a long time, like what sort of the history of like what he was doing, and I don't know. It's sort of interesting.
What kind of music was on in the house when you were growing up?
My mom, like, I feel like exclusively listened to stuff like Joni Mitchell and Simon and Garfunkel, and she can't hear very well now, so she has no idea what my music sounds like. But she saw us live once and told me to stop screaming, which I think is really funny because like I don't scream at all. Maybe it was just my facial expression. I don't know. And then my dad really likes Elvis Costello, and they both liked the Beatles. But yeah, it was cool. I don't know. I feel like they were, whatever. They had all right taste in music. And then,
did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister.
Is she older or younger?
She's 2 years older than me. She actually was the first one to get into Nirvana, and she would like, every year when it was like the anniversary of his death, Kurt Cobain's death, it would like VH1 would just be playing like nonstop Nirvana music videos or MTV or whatever. And she would just sort of leave it on, and it took a while. I was I was probably like 12 or 13 when I first heard it, and it was like, it took me a couple listens. And I remember it was Lithium was the song that sort of stuck with me. And my sister definitely was the one who showed it to me originally, but she, had sort of a sibling rivalry. So I think as soon as I liked it, she stopped liking it. And I showed her Sonic Youth, and I remember she was like, "What is this? It sounds like noise. It's not music." And so I just like dove really deep into it, I think. And actually from there, it opened up. I think Nirvana for a lot of people is like a introduction to a lot of other things, like Sonic Youth and Daniel Johnston and the Vaselines and and then Beat Happening, and it just kind of opens up from there. And so, I don't know. That was sort of what happened with me. And then when I was growing up too, in high school, like it was a weird, like Devandra Banhart or whatever, and Sufjan Stevens. That was what the kids, the indie rockers were listening to. And then also I was lucky to have had discovered the smell in Los Angeles, so I saw a lot of like local bands like No Age and Mika Miko and Abe Vigoda, and all of that stuff was sort of happening when I was 15 or 16, and that was, I think, really what was the most inspiring to me to start playing music were those bands. One of the first shows I went to was like an anniversary of theirs. I can't remember what year it was, but no, I heard of the smell because some girl in my art class in high school who was like, real scened out, MySpace hair or whatever. She was like, you should play a show at the Smell. I used to go there, but everyone there is lame now. You would like it. And so I was like, okay. And I looked it up, and I saw photos of it on MySpace, and I thought it looked really cool. And in high school, I would go there at least once a week, sometimes every day. It was just, and it sort of didn't matter what band was playing. I was just kind of curious to see live music, and I felt really like welcome there for some reason. When I was like 13, I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was really little because I watched a lot of like Nickelodeon. And then when I got older and started listening to bands, I wanted to be in a band. And I started my first band when I was 13. And I've had a band ever since. There's been very short periods of time when I haven't had some version of a band. But yeah, I don't know. I was definitely wrapped up in my identity as a kid. Now I'm trying to make it less wrapped up in my identity.
So what does that mean now?
I just like, I've just been trying to make music because I like making music and not worry about, what other people think of it or how it makes me look or seem, and yeah, just like, I think that too, when you're like 13, you think that you have this sort of like narrative in your head about, how you're some sort of tragic artist and you're going to change the world, or, you know what I mean? And now,
did you feel tragic at the time?
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like everyone has like whatever kind of things that they go through, and I think that like music and everything else sort of magnified that stuff. And I was a weird little kid, and I like, yeah, I don't know. You're pretty good at this questioning people.
What do you mean when you say you were a weird little kid?
uh, well, when I was like 14, when I was 14 and 15, I was like, there's the jocks, and there's the popular kids, and then I was hanging out with all the drug addicts, and whatever. I did a bunch of drugs when I was really young, and I went to a psych ward when I was like 15, and I don't know, I had all these kind of strange things that, I had, I just, high school was a little bit hard for me, and I think, music was luckily actually like the thing that helped me through it. And when I got out of the psych ward was when I started taking music really seriously.
How long were you in the psych ward?
I think it was only like a week or two. I can't totally recall. I think I was I was hallucinating pretty severely. I thought the government was out to get me, and helicopters were chasing after me, all the classic stuff. And it took like about a week of doing bizarre stuff. And, I thought that because there's closed captioning on the TV at my parents' house because of my mom's hearing aids. So I thought, the closed captioning was giving me secret messages, all sorts of fucking loony crap. And then, I went to the psych ward for about a week or so before it just sort of wore off. It just went away.
Were you taking lots of psychedelics at the time?
Not specifically psychedelics, but just sort of whatever was available, and yeah, I don't know. I think I have like a weird brain chemistry where I shouldn't be doing any of it. So, but yeah, that happened. And then, yeah, it was really interesting. Like I met this girl in the psych ward who like had a bunch of mutual friends, and she was the one who sort of like snapped me out of it, like talking to her. And she like she told me that she just talked to me because I was so weird and I kept yelling at people and saying wild shit. And she was bored. She was there because she tried to kill herself or something, and she just thought I was interesting. And like, so she, yeah, I don't know. It was cool. Made some like friendship bracelets. It was a weird like defining moment for me in my life, because after that was sort of I started making music pretty nonstop, and I was like, I had decided that I was the weird kid. A lot of my friends at the time knew of what happened, and because I was like inspired by other weirdos, like Daniel Johnston and whatever, I was just like, all right, well, this is a good path for me. Like I don't have to worry too much about being crazy, because it seems like those kinds of people are celebrated in this world.
Can you remember the first song that you wrote that you felt good about?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. There's this song that I wrote when I was a teenager that I wrote like right after I got out of the psych ward. And that song, I think I was going through a lot of emotions, and I remember sitting with the guitar pretty nonstop all day. It kind of reminds me of what's happening now. I'm just like stuck here with a guitar. But I wrote this song called Wallflower, and it's still like to this day, like there's a lot of kids like cover it online, and it seems to have like, I've gotten messages from people that have been like, Like I was, not knowing what it was about or not knowing what I had gone through and writing me and having similar experiences. And that was really exciting and like sort of created like a purpose around making music for me. But yeah, I don't know. It still exists online somewhere. It's a little embarrassing, you know what I mean? Because I was a little kid. um, but yeah, that one stands out to me.
Did you envision your life taking a similar path to someone like your uncle or your teacher?
Yeah, it's weird, because like my dad and my uncle used to always fight about why they weren't successful musicians. And
So
it
they
was
didn't
like,
consider themselves to be successful musicians, even though
well, they didn't make money from playing music. Like my uncle had a day job, my dad had day jobs, you know what I mean? Like neither of them, I think I have already done a lot more as far as touring and selling records, you know what I mean? Like I've probably sold more records than them. Not that it matters,
right.
But so I heard my uncle being like, or it was more my dad was like, you're not famous or rich because your music's too weird, Mark. And then he would be like, well, how come you're not successful if you're making this pop music? And so I sort of listened to both of them and was like, well, you're both dumb. Like it shouldn't be pop or weird. It should just be whatever you want it to be, maybe somewhere in between, And I just like, it was kind of cool hearing, like growing up with like two different perspectives. And yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. Both of them are really talented, in their own ways. They were just different,
You thought they were both dumb in a way.
Yeah.
So how
That's
did
the
you
quote. That's the quote.
how did you see your life shaping up?
Well, I think I was just more inspired by bands that, had sort of had experimental elements, but were still able to construct like music that was listenable and accessible. And I think that's something that I've always tried to do because like I like songs and I like good songwriting, but I also like, I like experimental music and I think there's a time and place for either one. But I think, what I really latched onto bands that could combine both of them, and I think that like where my music interest lies is somewhere in between my uncle and my dad.
So after high school, what did you do?
I took a year off because I thought I was going to just play music. And then my friend convinced me to apply to CalArts for animation. So I went to CalArts for the experimental animation program. And then after 2 years of that, I got a job art directing, and I left CalArts and worked in animation. I worked at a studio for a few years, and now now I still do animation, but I freelance.
Which studio did you work at?
It was called Friends Night. It was like it was actually kind of interesting. There's a thing at CalArts called Portfolio Day, and I met this guy, and I made zines. I didn't even have a portfolio. I just made zines because that's what I knew. You know what I mean? I was like, I'll make a zine. It just had some drawings and writing in it. And this guy named Ben Jones, who did Paper Rad, he was a part of an art collective called that, and he was sort of involved in like the lightning bolt sort of art scene in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I definitely remember Paper Rad, and we had Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt on the show a couple days ago, actually.
Oh, great, that's cool. Well, yeah, Ben saw my zine and was like, "You're perfect for this thing. I'm working for Fox Television. We're making a new like Adult Swim style program," and I, was brainwashed by The Simpsons or something, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to make a cartoon for Fox, like whatever." And I ended up like, through a series of events, like they ended up hiring me. Well, they didn't realize I was still in school. They thought I graduated, and then when they found out, they made me intern, which was annoying. And then they asked me to drop out of school, which was kind of a weird, interesting thing. And so I left Cal Arts, and then I art directed this show called the Lucas Bros Moving Co., which it's these comedians called the Lucas Bros star in it, and it was cool. It was a really great learning experience for me. It like wasn't my art necessarily, you know what I mean? Like I was working for someone else, but I learned a lot, and I learned about like the production of animation and how to do it on my own. And since then, like I've produced and directed a lot of things from home. And at the same time, while I was doing that, I was developing my own stuff with Titmouse, which is another animation company, which was actually only a couple blocks away. So I would and that was also through Portfolio Day, I think. I can't really remember. There was a lot of when I got one meeting, when I got one animation meeting, I would use that to set up more meetings because I was like, well, I have all these ideas and all this stuff, so. And I'm still working with Titmouse, and they're a really cool company. And they
shout out to Chris and Shannon.
Yeah, Chris and Shannon, I love them, and they look like they're having a lot of fun at home with their kid right now. But they're perfect. They're the perfect studio for me right now because they have a lot of musicians involved. They made that show Metalocalypse, and so I've been working with this guy Mark who worked on Metalocalypse, and we met with Brendan Small recently, which was really exciting, and it's been cool. It's been really great, working with them. I've been developing my own show with Titmouse for 10 years. It just keeps changing hands. It's whatever. It's it's fun, and I'm not holding my breath that it will ever get made. But it's been a cool experience, and I've got to meet a lot of cool people. And it's a show about being in a band, and it's a show about music. So it's been cool, and that is what I did after high school.
I work with Titmouse a lot.
Oh, cool.
I did the music for a show called Super Jail.
Oh yeah, I love Super
Ball
Jail.
Masters.
Cool.
And then there's a new show coming out next week, I think, called
cool.
The Midnight Gospel.
Bunch of my friends worked on that. My friend Evan, he storyboards stuff for me all the time. Evan, he storyboarded on that show, the Penn Ward show, and I know Evan because the company, it was called Friends Night, but it was for ADHD, which was the Adult Swim type thing for Fox. They hired Evan because we drew alike. So I was art directing the show, and they hired Evan to storyboard it, and we became friends instantly because we both liked the same stuff. But he just storyboarded on that show, so I've seen a little bit of it. It looks really cool.
How did you meet the other people in your band?
I met Pascal in high school, so we went to the same high school, and he was one of the few the few kids in my school that listened to the same kind of music, and we became friends pretty quickly. That was actually after the psych ward. So he was my non-drug addict friend, and I met him. It was actually funny. We had met once before, and then it was PE. We had PE class together for a week. I think one of us switched out, but he was like, "What'd you do this summer?" And I was like, "I was in a psych ward. Do you want to be in my band?" And he told me later he thought I was really weird and interesting, and he wanted to be in my band. So we were best friends right away, and he actually has been helping me write this. We've been writing the cartoon together, the thing with Titmouse. So he's involved in that. And then me and Pascal had some bands, and we were playing a show in Santa Barbara at this place called Bico Garage. It was Santa Barbara, they have sort of a party school or something, and these kind of twee hipster indie rock kids would throw these shows in this little garage called Biko Garage. And Andrew, our drummer, for some reason, him and his friends like drove out for that show. So that was the first time I met Andrew. He was seeing me and Pascal play. And then I kept running into him at shows. Like I think the second time I met him was at a place called Le Keg, which was another like all ages DIY venue in Echo Park near the old Pear Space. But yeah, I played with a different drummer from high school, this guy named David, and he had like a job at a movie theater, and he kept like canceling shows because he had, he's like, oh, I have to work. And I was like this kind of bratty, 17-year-old that was like, what do you care about working at a movie theater? This is important music. And I got pissed off, and Andrew ended up playing drums for us. And yeah, we've been playing music together ever since. Andrew's a real intense drummer, like he's like a human metronome. He learned how to play drums in church. His parents are religious, and they forced him to go to church, and he played drums in like the church band. And he would go to sleep listening to a metronome, which I always think is a cool rock and roll story. And then Pascal too is like a crazy musician. He like plays stand-up. He played stand-up bass for years. His dad is a bass player, like runs in his family. But yeah, I'm like really lucky to have met them. They're like, it's a really special thing. It's like, I feel like starting a band is really hard, and I've had a bunch of them, but as soon as I met Pascal and Andrew, every band I had, they were in, and there was a year where I tried to play with other people because one of our bands broke up, and it was really hard, just like, I don't know, something about the three of us like really click together, and it's easy, and I wouldn't want to make music with anyone else. It freaks me out.
How would you describe the creative dynamic of the band? Like when you're writing songs, how does it work?
Me and Pascal, I would say, sort of take turns bringing in ideas. So a lot of the times, I'll bring in a fully fleshed out song on the guitar, and then, together we'll come up with the arrangement, and we'll I guess jam on it or whatever. And then some other times Pascal brings in, loops or verses or choruses, and we normally get together and sort of we come up with sort of the arrangement of those two, and I write all the lyrics and melodies, and then Andrew normally comes in at the end and sort of adds his rhythm, obviously, but he also has notes on structure and stuff like that, and he'll shape songs a lot. He actually we have a song called "Running" on the new album that we just put out, and it's like the original version of it, which I brought in, was like super slow and sort of boring. And I had envisioned it as this like psychedelic, like slow, hypnotic song. And we were playing it probably for a year, and Andrew just kept saying how much he hated it. And I was like, well, I like it, so figure out why you hate it and fix it. And he was like, all right, we're playing it twice as fast. And he just like changed a couple elements of it, and it's a lot better now.
I wanted more than I could ever ask for. What do you dream about? That you are not allowed. Reflection shattered. Can't recognize yourself. What used to matter that we forgot about.
Well, our album actually came out the day after LA went on lockdown. So it was sort of, I don't think we could have waited, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. The day the record came out, I was pretty upset. I was like, oh no, this thing I've been working on for 2 years has been sabotaged. And we had like...
Now everybody's going to die and no one will be left to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But then it didn't take very long before I realized that it's, completely narcissistic to sit there and self-pity about my album when every single human is being affected by this thing. And I'm just like happy that anyone is listening to it at all, and it's not like, it's a quality over quantity situation now where I'm just like, the people that have latched onto it have been really sweet and, have appreciated it. And we started working with managers and, we have booking agents and we have the label now and there's all these people involved. And, I want them to, be able to feed their families and I want us to be a part of that and to help them. And I want everyone to be happy, you know what I mean? But ultimately I stopped caring about how successful we are. You know what I mean? And I just like making music. So the album coming out during this pandemic, is like probably, it couldn't have been a worse time to come out. But
yeah, I was wondering about that because on one hand, people are stuck at home with nothing to do. So maybe it's a good time to put something out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think what I actually think is that, all of the PR that the label does and all of the articles about the music videos and everything sort of leading up to the album coming out, those articles have the tour dates under them. And that's sort of what they're promoting as your shows. And the shows are where you make money, as that's one part of it, but also where you make new fans. And everyone who comes to your show brings their friend or posts a video of you playing on Instagram or whatever. And I don't know what, we've never been like an internet band. And, our role models have been, these people, these, bands that jam a Kano or whatever, like you go in the van, you tour, you make fans, you play a show, there's 10 people, but the next time you come, there's 20. And that's how we've always done it. So I think for us, it is a little bit of a loss not being able to tour. But, there is that silver lining of like people are at home and they need something to listen to. They need something to do. And who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Like there's people dying. There's thousands of people dying. So I just like, I don't care. I don't care about the album. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I wrote it and I enjoyed making it. And like, if someone likes it, that's great, But yeah, it's hard to ask people to buy a record right now. Everyone's losing their jobs. And I just like, I don't know. It's been interesting. It's been a shift personally for my priorities, and that has a lot to do with why I've just been playing guitar for no reason. I'm just trying to stay happy, as much as I can. And I don't know. It's interesting. The whole thing is interesting. We're getting emails all day about live streams and I don't know. It's just not what I'm used to. I'm not an internet person. I'm trying to learn how to use it, but I have this weird thing where I really believe that Instagram and Twitter and Facebook should be paying all of us for creating free content for them. Like every time I put my time and energy into posting on these corporate platforms that are profiting off of us, it hurts a little bit. And
Well, everything that you were worried about when you were 15 and you had to go to the psych ward, as far as like corporations or the government tracking you, that's all happening, and it's all accepted.
No, I know.
That's what
I know.
social media is.
Yeah, I know. It's actually funny, or it's not funny, but when this pandemic thing happened, I did have to kind of sit for a second and be like, is this actually happening? You know, same with Trump getting elected. I had to really like, sit back and just check my sanity. And as far as I know, this stuff's really happening. But you never know. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's all pretty insane. And every day I am looking for silver linings. It's hard. They're harder and harder to find.
Well, for one thing, the air is cleaner in LA than it's been in something like 80 years.
True. Yeah.
So who's the virus? Who's the real virus, man?
Yeah, that's interesting. My roommate, who is he works at a hospital, and he was saying he heard a theory that was that the coronavirus is the Earth's immune system.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. But
so is cancer,
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's tough. I think like right now it's numbers, you know what I mean? It's just the numbers are stacking, and it's hard for people to understand numbers. But a lot of these, or all of these people have families, and I don't know. It's really fucking sad and crazy, and you can't even have a funeral right now. You can't even be around people to mourn these deaths, and it's just fucked. It's tragic, and if I look at my phone for more than 10 seconds, I ruin my day. So, I'm just trying to play guitar and like, stay inside and try and be happy. I don't know.
Yeah, you mentioned that your priorities have shifted. So what are your priorities right now?
Well, my main priority, I think, is number one, my own sanity, but also like, because the world is so out of my control and I feel so powerless, what I can influence is like my immediate community. And so I've been calling people that I care about, and I've been just trying to reach out to people and just trying to put out good, as many good messages into the world as I can. Even though you get me talking about the world and I start saying a bunch of negative crap, but, I don't know. I think more than ever, it's important to care about your community, and we're lucky that we live in LA, and we're lucky to be a part of, artistic communities, and just overall, we're lucky, you know what I mean? Like, we're lucky we're talking on the phone right now. I've been trying really hard to just like, practice gratitude and think about, what I'm fortunate to have. It's it's a scary time, but if you have shelter and family and you're healthy, you can't complain. It's I don't know. I just see people, they're bored at home, and it's like, there's people who don't have homes, and it's just, I don't know. I don't even remember your question. Whatever.
Well, we were talking about your priorities, but I think you answered it. If you could go back in time and have a conversation with 15-year-old Sean, what would you tell him and what would you ask him?
That's a good question. I would tell him, guess what? You did all the shit that you wanted to do, and it wasn't as cool as you thought. And I would ask him to maybe be easier on himself or something. Yeah, I don't know. I see it in other people all the time. Like I see this thing where like they're like chasing these dreams, you know what I mean? They're like, when I when I get signed to the label, I'll be happy. Or, you know, when I publish my book, I'll be happy. Or when I get the job, I'll be happy. Or when I get the relationship, I'll be happy. And, you know, I guess what I would tell 15-year-old version of myself is to not, you know, to realize none of those things will make you happy, and that you have to be present and figure out how to be happy in the moment. And that's something I'm doing now, like with being at home. You know, I could sit here and be like, oh, I can't wait till this is done and I can go back to my life, but I don't know when that's going to be.
This is your life, right?
This is my life, yeah. You know, so I'm just like, you got to start living it, I guess. I don't know.
How does it feel? Do you feel like you're successfully finding happiness in the moment?
Yeah, I actually do. I feel like I'm, you know, I do feel like there's some, you know, the days are, some days are more difficult than others right now, but I do feel like at times I'm thriving in the quarantine. You know what I mean? I've been taking a lot of online classes. I've been reading a lot. I've been, you know,
What
like I said,
classes have you been taking?
I was taking, me and my girlfriend have been watching. So there's some website, I can't remember, but you could Google it, whatever. Some website I discovered where you can take classes for free. You can audit them. And there's one class called The Moralities of Everyday Life. It's this guy, Paul Bloom. He's like a Yale professor. And they're just kind of like TED Talks, you know what I mean? They're just lectures. But it feels pretty relevant now. It talks about, you know, like the differences between liberals and conservatives, and like just the different priorities. And it's interesting. And then I've also been taking different like music classes. They have free Berkeley online classes, like I've been trying to get more into music theory. I've always sort of rejected it because I thought I was punk or something. So now I'm like, I should learn why I play this music. So I've been taking some piano classes, and and I have some like, you know, some classes I want to take. And I don't know. I always, and I've been reading a lot. You know, I'm always like, I don't have enough time. Like, I wish I had more time. I wish the world would just, you know, pause for a second so I could read all my books and learn how to do this. And, you know, I'm always thinking that.
And how's it working out?
And now it happened. It fucking happened. And if I'm not like, if I don't try and do it, I'll never do it. So, you know, if I really block out the rest of the world for a day, I can be happy. You know what I mean? It's just hard to. It's hard not to look at the crap. And I've been trying really hard. You know, I started making these to-do lists at night, and lately I've been sort of slacking on them. They're more like suggestions. You know what I mean? Like, maybe read, maybe do this. But I've noticed when I have, you know, I have a little bit of a schedule for myself, I can be productive. And I don't know, I've just been in sort of acceptance of the situation. It took a couple weeks.
Are you still planning on touring in the summer?
Yeah, we keep pushing. I don't know. There's a tour booked right now. I don't think it's going to happen. It says July. That seems not realistic, but yeah, we're going to tour. The plan is when this is over to just do exactly what we were going to do. It's just delayed, you know? So, you know, I think we'll do the US and Europe and all the stuff once it's safe to do that.
Well, Sean, thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.